three different types, or three keys for crisis management. The first is preparation. The second was timeliness and communication, clarity of message. And the third was the follow-up, adult reflection. So we'll first focus on preparation. Preparation is basically risk management. I assume that a lot of us have risk management at some point in undergrad. It's about preparing for not just bad scenarios and worst case scenarios in general, but it's also about recognizing specific and new information that comes forward and being able to prepare for the worst case scenario from that information. On March 31st of last year, so we go back 7 months, the Patriot News, which is out of Harrisburg, it's the largest newspaper in central Pennsylvania, did a front page story that leaked the grand jury investigation into Jerry Sandusky. Now, what does that have to do with Penn State? Why would that tie back to Penn State? Well, she tied it to Penn State in two different ways. The first is she gave details of an alleged incident from 1998 that occurred on Penn State's campus. She also indicated that 3 high-ranking Penn State employees had testified before the grand jury. They were the head football coach, Joe Paterno, the athletic director, Tim Curley, and a senior administrator by the name of Gary Schultz. Now, for whatever reason, that leaked story, front page story, that made its rounds on the internet, was known amongst Penn Staters, both online and in the community in general. Did not gain much notoriety. It was not picked up by the national media. There were no scrolls on ESPN. And it seems to have largely been ignored by Penn State. Now, Sarah also called it sort of like being in a twilight zone of why that story did not get more press. Now, sort of sidetrack for a quick moment. Penn State is a land-grant, state-related university. It's governed by a board of trustees comprised of 32 members. 9 of those are elected by alumni. The rest, the other 23, are either ex officio members, meaning you have a position in government or you have a position in a state society or state agency, and you're appointed. The sitting governor is one of those, or you're appointed by largely agricultural societies throughout Pennsylvania. Now, you would think that a board of trustees, largely comprised of, you would think, intelligent folks, would react to this report. They'd see it as new information and put into place some sort of plan to react. Well, as a later Patriot News article would explain, there really was no reaction. In fact, trustees were told when the grand jury presentment leaked on November 4th that there's nothing to see here. This isn't urgent. We'll see you for our regularly scheduled meeting a few days down the road. Well, some trustees pushed, and they got an emergency meeting. It was done in 48 hours notice, so we're talking Sunday evening. They had the emergency meeting, and the result was a very simple statement. It was a statement accepting a request from both the athletic director and senior administrator, Tim Curley and Gary Schultz, to first to be placed on administrative leave, the second to be able to retire. And it also laid out some very basic steps that they would try better to be able to report child abuse on campus. It was a very plain statement. Now, Mike Paul, who was a crisis consultant, told the USA Today in the days after that, when you say nothing, which is essentially what Penn State was doing, that there's a perception that there's something to hide. A classmate of mine, I'll butcher his name, we all butcher his name, we call him Apu, said by not proactively taking the message to the media, they allowed the media to write the narrative of the story, which is exactly what was happening. On Wednesday, the Board of Trustees met again, and they finally went before the press. It was a very quick press conference. They announced the forced resignation of the university president and the firing of Joe Paterno. They then held a 20 to 25-minute question and answer session with the answers being yes, no, and we can't comment. There was very little message given. The last piece of the fallout was that Friday. One of the assistant coaches who was central to the story was placed on administrative leave forcefully because of safety concerns. Now, what did Penn State do after this initial fallout? Well, they hired a crisis management firm called Ketchum. A week later, they hired Louis Freeh, who was a former FBI director, to head up what they called an independent investigation to find out what was going wrong. That report was intended to be given to the public without any influence from Penn State. On January 19th, we learned that the Penn State Board of Trustees would not only have a chance to review it before it went public, but they would have a chance to make recommendations to it before it went public. In January, there were a series of town hall meetings in Pittsburgh and King of Prussia, down near Philly, and up in New York City. Penn State's new president went on those, trying to calm nerves, but again, sort of like the press conference after they fired the university president, Joe Paterno, there's very little information given. He indicated that he could not speak on behalf of the Board of Trustees, that he could not give legal answers. So there's, again, very little information given. Those were attended by alumni, nonetheless they were not very happy. So throughout this whole process, throughout the preparation or lack of preparation, throughout the timeliness or lack of timeliness, throughout the clear, concise communication or lack thereof, and throughout the follow-up or the lack thereof, what Penn State allowed to happen was that instead of controlling the message, and instead of forming and coming out of this on their own terms, they allowed the media, they allowed the court of public opinion to rule. And as I think any of us who have seen headlines and scrolls that label this all Penn State scandal, yeah, that's just a shame.